Morning, Peirush HaMeir, Umay Ashbos Zu Amur Batur. Here we're going to discuss what is the obligation of getting rid of the Chametz Erev Pesach and all of Pesach. In it, we'll talk about the mitzvah Tashbisu, why you don't make a brocha on bittul Chametz, which is read, and if bittul belev is enough for Chametz. If there's a difference between chometz, which you know about, or whether you don't know about it regarding bittul, and if a shliach can be mevatel for you. So the Rambam starts off, Ma'i ashbosa zu amur b'Torah. Which is this getting rid of chometz that's mentioned in the Torah? How do you do it? He should be b'atloi b'liboy. He has to nullify it in his heart. V'yachshav oisei ke'ofen. He has to equate it with dust, dirt. Yosim beliboy, he should place in his heart. V'yachshav, and he should think. She'em b'reshusay chometz klal. I don't have any chometz. She'chol chometz she'b'reshusay. If there's anything that's in his reshus that's chometz, harei ka'ofo. It says like dust. U'kedova she'em b'tzor klal, and there's no purpose. It fits for anything. Ma'agim mishnah cites psochim. Midorai in Daled on Beis, in Yud on Beis, it says midaraisa. It's enough to do this. You don't even have to burn it. The Abonon are those who are required to be checked for chometz and to get rid of it, to burn it. And he brings down further from Sochem Vovam and Beis. Rabbi Yehuda says, somebody who's boidik, even according to the Chacham, the boidik tzorch yivatel, you still have to be mevatel. That even after he was boidik, he has to mevatel chometz. Maybe he didn't find everything. And the Gemara asks, under what circumstances you mevatel chometz? And the answer, you say, kol chamiro deika beshusi, any chometz that I have in my possession, the bottle should be nullified. V'leheve ke'afra, should be like dust, the ara of the earth. That every chometz has no value to it. Why don't you make a brocha on bittul chometz without bedika? If you wouldn't make a bedika, why didn't you make a brocha? Or do you have to actually say it by mouth? Is bittul enough if you think it and have it complete in your heart? Rabbeinu Menoyach explains, you don't make a brocha on bittul chometz because the bittul is in the heart. You don't make a brocha on something that has no action to it. And even speaking, you don't need B'nai Torah because it's totally, as the Rambam writes, Shivat la chometz b'liboy. He should nullify the chometz in his heart, and he should place in his heart that it has no value. And the Gemara is, of course, quoted that says, "Yivatel b'liboy." Rabbeinu Menach asks a question: if that's the case, why the Chacham say you require you to say kol chamira? And the answer is that it should be clear that that's what he's thinking in his heart. That's what he feels in his heart. But stating it with the mouth without meaning it in the heart is not bittul. The Magen Mishnah learns what it says in the Gemara of Olam Beis, that aboidik tzor sheyivatel, that even though you checked, you have to be mevatel, is not because you're chayev levatel with your mouth, because even according to the Rambam, the obligation of the Torah is in the heart, but it comes to tell you that Chachamim enacted, they should say with his mouth, the bittul, and he cites the Agoras Maimonides, and he brings Rashi, and he's medayek from what it says, Tashbisu loy tevaru. It doesn't say tevaru, which means burn, but rather Tashbisu, which means you should be separated from it, rested from it, that it's in the heart. Rabbeinu Tam and Rabbeinu Elio Mizrahi disagree, and they feel that bittul helps because of hefker. It says in the posuk, you shouldn't see chometz and not soyer. The Chacham learn in Sochem Hayam and Beis that you can't see yours, but you can see someone else's chometz. And therefore, once you are mafkir it, once you say it's no longer yours, so you can't be over on something that's not yours. And if you nullify it, you are making it hefker, and therefore it's not yours. Therefore, you don't need b'dika b'nai Torah. That's why bittul is enough, but it's midin hefker. Tosfos asks a question on Rashi: how could he learn that bittul belay from a tashbisu, hashbosa means havora, because we find in the Brisa, Rabbi Kiva says you didn't have to learn from the posuk like si shochet al chal that one is obligated to get rid of chometz before the first night of Pesach, because it says B'yom Rishon Tashbisu. You would learn it from the very fact that it says Tashbisu on the Yom Rishon. As we learned earlier, Yom Rishon is Erev Pesach, and it says B'yom Rishon Kamalocha Yosef V'avori Yamalocha, and you can't burn on Yom Tov. So obviously, you can't be talking about Minat Torah Yom Tov. It's forbidden to nullify. Ube'echerech, it's talking about that he did it on Erev Pesach. So Tashbisu must mean, according to that, to burn it. Just that we can't burn on Yom Tov. Therefore, we do it Erev Pesach. And how can Rashi say that Tashbisu means in your heart alone? So the Tosfos says in the Neshem of the Ri, the Minaraisa, it's enough bittul. And after he's mevatel, it becomes hefker. It's not longer his. That's why he's allowed to leave it. And what it says about the roy shel acherem means not that which is not yours. And Tosfos asks from Yochanan that says hefker has to be in the third day in front of three people. It doesn't say that bittul has to be for three people. Answers shemidaraisa. You don't need a tzor shehefker. It should be in front of three people. It's only the Rabbanan that you need three people. That's why bittul works. So the Agoras Maimonides adds, in the Gemara we find that Yeshua Levi disagrees on Rabbi Yochanan, and that he feels that even in front of one person, hefker works, and what you need three is that two should be witnesses, and one should be there who can take the chometz, or whatever person is mafkir, and be able to move it. And by chometz, that's not shayach, because nobody's going to take the chometz of Pesach, and that, therefore, it's not mentioned to three people, and that's why bittul works without three people. Because the Mishnah brings down that there are those who have the language in the Rambam. How do you get rid of chometz? That you should get rid of the chometz which is known to him from his possession. That which he does not know, he should nullify in his heart. So they make a differentiation between chometz which is known to him and chometz which is not known to him. So the Kesef Mishnah asks from Sochen in Vovim at Beis. The Rambam says the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda is that somebody who's boidik needs to be mevatel. Maybe he'll find something on Pesach, and he'll think, oh yeah, I want to eat it at that point. So the Gemara asks, when he'll find it, he should nullify it. And according to the Zgiyas of the Rambam, that midiraisa, chometz that's known, you need, it only helps biur. The Gemara should have said, when he finds it, he'll get rid of it. Thus it proves that if midiraisa, it's enough to nullify it. Therefore, the Gemara says it's enough to nullify it, and he won't be over on the Bal Yiro, as we said, because it's not his. Thus, since we therefore have to say that after he's mevatel it, to get rid of it is also a mitzvah midrabanan. And in many places, the midiraisa bittul helps even the chometz which is known to him, and the Kesef Mishnah says that certainly there is no shirish, there's no this language that we find in the Rambam that for chometz yidur you have to burn it is a mistake. Furthermore, he proves from Hilchos Brochus in Perek Yud Aleph. It says that when we do bedika, we make a brocha before we start the bedika. Al biur chometz, because once he has decided to nullify it, he has kept the mitzvah of biur even before he is boidik it. Every bracha is made at the beginning. Therefore, the Rambam says it's enough to do it, nullify it with his heart, and when he makes the bracha, even if he doesn't find anything, he has fulfilled the mitzvah of being mevatel. And the Kesef Mishnah found an exact text of the Rambam. What is the hashbosa? He should nullify the chometz in his heart, and he should think that it's earth and as if he has no chametz at all, and any chametz that he has is like offal, and nothing. There's no worthwhile use for it. He doesn't mention that chametz yedua you have to get rid of biur, because the Mishnah is therefore bewildered why the Magen Mishnah didn't explain what the Rambam meant. It would seem the Magen Mishnah didn't have the girsa that we have that were found in the text before the Kesef Mishnah. The Magen Mishnah was before, and his girsa was just like we have today, that there's no difference between whether the chametz was known to him or it wasn't known to him. It is nullified with bittul, and that's the way we find it in the Smag and in Rabbeinu Manoach, that's the correct text of the Rambam. Beis Yosef brings down that the Rambam is of the opinion shebittul is midoraisa, and bedika and biur do not have a root in the Torah at all, as the Torah feels. Rather, it's drabonon. The Bach brings a shita, which is brought down by the Kolboy, in the name of Goyin Echod, that by Chometz Yedua, it doesn't help bittul alone. You have to burn it. And he brings a raya from the Gemara that if you didn't find wood, in Psochim Chav Zayin and Beis 27b, it says, if you didn't find wood to burn it, so just sit and do nothing. So the question is, what do you mean you do nothing? He can be mevatel, and the language of saying do nothing, it seems to say that there's nothing else you can do if you don't have what to burn it with. From this, he wants to bring a proof that chametz that you know about, it's not enough bittul, but you have to get rid of it. But as we stated, most meforshim say you can be mevatel even chametz that is known. He brings that the Rae is of that opinion as well. Elo, just that the Rae feels you should burn it, and after you are boidik ubitul u'matzah, after the zman isui, then it's different. Then it's enough to mevatel. Now, the Kesef Mishnah brings from Rabbeinu Manoach that the text is there's no difference between Chometz Yedua and Chometz She'ein Yedua. So in the Divrei Rabbeinu Manoach that we have, it seems not like that, because at the end of Halacha Beis he says Bittul moil b'chometz hayedua loi. Bittul only helps the chometz that he knows, and he cannot burn it. Like if a wall fell on it and there's a ton of dirt on it, or somebody who makes his house into a storage house, or he's in a different city and he can't physically burn the chometz, and however that which is known to him and he can burn, he has to burn. It's not enough bittul. So it would seem that the Minat Torah, that's the way. Maybe the Kesef Mishnah understood that it means that it's not enough bittul not because Minat Torah is not enough bittul, but rather the Chachomim obligated him to be boidik ulevaya, and only when there is no other solution, when he doesn't know of any chometz, that they permit to remain on the deraisa of biur. The Peirush also discusses the shita of this goyin, who requires biur on non-chometz. But now we'll go to the question if you need to say it with your mouth, or you can just think it in your heart. On the Mishnah it says, in Psochim 31b, chometz that fell on it in Mapolis, it's as if it was burnt. The Gemara says, Omar Rav Chizda, he has to nullify it in his heart. So the Ran says that there are those who explain that it's not enough in the heart, because usually what you think in your heart is not significant. But it means he doesn't have to say it out loud, just like the question of whether Shema, you have to hear it, or it's enough to say it with your lips. But you have to actually move your lips. Midrabanon, only midrabanon you need bittul. Midraisa, since Mapolis fell on it, you're not even over on it because it's not accessible to you. The Beis Yosef is of the opinion that the Torah is of the opinion that it's enough b'bittul b'lev, you don't have to say the words. Now, can you make a shliach? So the Baal Itor is of the opinion that making an agent you can make an agent for bittul chometz, because any agent of a person is just like he himself. So says the Torah. In the Ran and Perek Hamid Psochim, and the Beis Yosef brings from those who say, which is the Ritva, in the name of the Ra'or, that since he was Mevatel Min Torah, it has a din of Hefka. It works because of Hefka. And a Shliach can't be Mevatel, because somebody says to someone else, you be Mafkir, you make that which is mine no longer mine. You can't do that. A person himself can say, I don't want this is Hefker. Machon Ephraim, Rabbi Kiva Eger, go into the question, and we're not going to have a chance here to explain all the lengthiness that they explain. Beis Yosef says that even though bittul is because of Hefker, still you can do it with a shliach. Why? Because chometz at the time of Isur is not really his. It was already Osa Ba'ano. That the Pasuk only says it's yours to be Oiva and Bal Yirah, but technically it's not yours any longer. And since he has stated that he doesn't want it, it was enough. Therefore, we can do it through a shliach. According to that, the shliach could be even a woman and a child. Why? Because even in Torah you need to have a shliach, someone who is of age, and someone who is capable of doing it, just like the man, obligated just like the man. Still, here all you need by bittul is gilui das, showing your intention. And therefore, when the woman says the intention, or the child says it, that my father wants this done, it takes effect. The Beis Yosef brings another reason why Hefker shliach doesn't work, and by bittul it does, because Hefker has to do with a vow, whereas bittul doesn't have anything to do with vows. It's just nullifying chometz, and therefore shlichus would help. And by a vow, someone else can't make a vow for you. And so we find in the Shulchan Aruch Harav and the Pri Megadim that you don't need shlichus, all the laws of shlichus. The Ran is of the opinion that a shliach cannot be mevatel, and the Balei Itur that says disagrees and says shliach can be mevatel, that because he's of the opinion that bittul doesn't have to do with hefka, or rather it is like Shitas Rashi, which you find in Psochim Dalan and Beis, that it's its own law of bittul. Min Torah, Rambam says tashbisu Torah is bittul b'lev, and that's for sure. You cannot be mafker in your heart. Therefore, it would seem he holds like Rashi that bittul has its own laws. But according to the other Go'onim, that bittul is because of hefker, you can't be mevatel through a shliach. So the Bach adds the Bala Itor is actually going according to the shita. The mevatel has to make a brocha on bittul chometz, as we learned earlier, even though he wasn't boidik. It must be because he has to say something with his mouth, because you cannot find a brocha on machshava. And therefore, he can be mevatel through a shliach because it's just the mouthing of that which is his intention, as we find by other mitzvahs, that with saying saying things can be done through a shliach. It's just you can make a shliach to mekadesh for you, a woman, and say Rae Gann to so and so through this ring. But Rabbeinu Menoach is of the opinion that even though bittul chometz is deraisa, you don't make a brocha on it, even if we say it's deraisa, because dibur is not something that he is in action, but rather it's just verifying that which he has in his heart, that the chometz is nullified. And in Yetz Hashem, in the next year we'll learn Perek Beis Halacha Gimel.